Choosing a date, location, and speaker performer can often be a frustrating experience of going back and forth over and over again, email this way, email that way, and all falls through because one hang up. We've been there, many of us. Right? So how do we avoid this kind of frustrating back and forth? Well, the key to avoid it is twofold. On the one hand, you want to be very clear upfront about what your priorities are, what you're inflexible about, and then secondly, what you can be flexible about, right? So it's a fine line between priorities and flexibility. Okay, well, how do you prioritize? Well, of the three, usually for each event, there will be one that is kind of fixed. Either the date will be very important, the venue will be the most important, or the performer and speaker will be the most important. So it's an example of this. If your event is celebrating a religious holiday, obviously the date of that religious holiday is going to be the most important of the three elements, right? If your activity is very specific, so let's say you're going bowling, the venue which allows for that activity, i.e. a bowling alley, is going to be the most important. If you're going skating, you need a skating rink, right? If the speaker or performer is the crucial element of the event, so let's say, just apropos of nothing, you're in a Queen Appreciation Society. Well, getting Queen to perform, the surviving members of Queen, is obviously the highest priority, right? You're ready to compromise this venue, that venue. You're ready to compromise this date, that date, if you can get, the remaining members of Queen, right? So having this clear sense of priority narrows what you need to negotiate. But so then the question is, well, what about the flexible elements? How do you stay flexible? Well, you want to give three priorities, three options for the factors that you're not focused on. So if, for example, you're set on Queen, three options for the date, three options for the venue, at least. So how do you pick these options? Well, picking options for a date are all about not conflicting with other important events. For example, you don't want to conflict with exams or midterms. You don't want to conflict with co-op interviews if that's big at your school or in your faculty among your members. You don't want to conflict with your other events, right? Maybe you want to have enough space that it's building on the momentum of your last event, but not so close that your members are getting a little tired already, right? You also want to avoid conflicts with other clubs' events, the faculty's events, and so on and so forth. I've included a list of examples of what you don't want to conflict with in the text version of this video. A pro tip is that in trying to figure out what else is going on, trying to look at the faculty calendar, look at the school calendar, look at the student newspaper, wherever you might look to figure out, is our event, is this particular date going to conflict with any other? You're actually doing some organic user testing of how your own event is going to be found. This is very valuable information when it comes to informing your own marketing. Where's the best place to put? Where was the first place I went, right? What was the effective language? What was the, what picture drew my attention, right? Because the answer to that question will be the same answer when it comes to promoting your own event. So that's it's a bit of a side point, but some very useful information in figuring out which are the best dates. Now, when it comes to venues, I've included a template database of the factors you want to consider, right? The reason you want a database is you don't want to have to go out and investigate every venue for every single event. Venues remain more or less stable in most of the factors. So once you've investigated a few venues, you want to keep that information for this year's, next year's executives' future events so that they just need to look at the database and it saves a lot of time. So what kind of factors are you looking for in a venue? Well, you want to ask questions like, what's the location, right? How far away is it in terms of walking, in terms of transit? Is it close to a bus station, far away from a bus station? Keeping in mind that if your event ends late, is the lighting good, right? Are some of your members going to be afraid to walk back home because of poor lighting, especially if they're at risk? Is it accessible, wheelchair accessible? Is it accessible for people with sight or hearing impairments? What's the cost? And you need to be very careful about how you break down the cost because there are many elements to how a venue might charge for an event. There could be the base fee, there could be a fee for using certain equipment, there could be a per person fee, there could be a percentage of tickets. Pay attention to all of these different elements, which I've included in the template database. You want to take notes on just general ambiance, right? How does it feel? How does it smell? How does it look? What's the wallpaper like, etc. These notes are very valuable when it comes time to setting the right feeling and putting out really truly professional events. There are other examples, and I've included them in the database linked below. I encourage you to build on this database elements that you find important, specifically for your members. When it comes to a speaker performer, I encourage creating a similar kind of database, right? Some factors you want to look for in a speaker or performer. Do you really need them to speak? Are they going to say anything they haven't already said in a TED Talk or a blog post or you could get somewhere else? Have you seen the speaker or performer? Are they good at what they do? Are they lively? Are they engaged? Are they going to stay afterwards? Are they too busy to be bothered to really talk to people, right? Are they reliable? Is it connected? They may be a great celebrity who draw a lot of people, but they're not really connected to your purpose. You always want to stay focused on your purpose. So, like I said, there's a sort of evaluation grid template linked below. There are many other factors to consider. If you can prioritize and remain flexible about your venue, date, and speaker, and really be intentional about the factors that you consider, I have no doubt you'll be well on your way to putting out a professional event with the least stress possible.